By the end of this video, you'll see why someone else's disappointment can feel so uncomfortable for highly sensitive people, and how to stop taking responsibility for emotions that aren't yours. In this video, you'll discover why someone else's disappointment can feel almost physically uncomfortable for someone who is highly sensitive. Why you may start trying to fix the emotional atmosphere the moment someone seems disappointed, and what changes when you stop confusing empathy with responsibility. Let's start with a moment many highly sensitive people recognize. Someone asks you for something. Maybe it's small, maybe a favor or a request or an invitation. And something inside you immediately knows that you don't actually want to do it. Maybe your schedule is full, or your energy is low, or you simply need time for yourself. And so you say no, or you try to. But the moment the word leaves your mouth, something shifts inside your body. The other person may pause. Maybe you hear a kind of sigh, or maybe their voice changes slightly. And maybe they say, okay, but something about it feels different. And immediately your nervous system locks onto that change. You feel it, not as a thought at first, but as kind of a tension that starts as awareness and then turns into a sensation even inside of you, like a tightening of your chest, or a fluttering of your stomach, or a sense that something is now off between you. And then the mind jumps in. Oh, did I hurt them? Maybe I should explain more. Maybe I should just help after all. And the boundary that you just set starts to feel unstable. This is where many highly sensitive people fall into what I call the emotional responsibility trap. Your system notices emotional shifts very quickly. That's part of your wiring. That's what we all do as highly sensitive people. But somewhere along the way, the brain starts attaching meaning to those signals. So it starts to interpret it as, if someone is disappointed, then I am responsible. Or if someone is uncomfortable, then I feel like I caused it. And if someone withdraws even slightly, then I feel a pressure to repair that. So saying no stops being a simple decision. It becomes more of an emotional kind of event for us when we're confounding these things. Because the nervous system starts managing the other person's experience, and it happens automatically. You start monitoring, like, are they upset? Did I damage the relationship? Should I soften what I said? In other words, you are no longer just holding your boundary, you are also holding their emotional reaction. And that is a very heavy job. I can remember breaking up with people and thinking, I want them to be happy about it. And that's like the impossible situation. So this is where you start to change your own boundary, your own no that is honest for you, your own integrity. You start trading that for not hurting them, not having them have any emotional reaction. Highly sensitive people really do notice emotional shifts in other people more quickly. That's part of our strength. It's a superpower in a way. And so your system is detecting subtle signals in the tone of voice, in the body language, and in the facial expressions, or in what they actually say. And that perception is very real, and you pick up on very real disappointment that others may have. But the difference is when you start interpreting what that means, and that's where the stress actually begins. So this is an important distinction that I want to make really clearly. The mind jumps to a conclusion that if they feel bad, then I must have done something wrong. And that's the misinterpretation. The assumption that I did something wrong because they are disappointed. And that assumption is rarely questioned. We just believe it. We just go along with it. But in reality, disappointment, like in another person, if I say no and someone's disappointed, then that's a normal human emotion. And someone can be disappointed without being harmed, actually. And someone can feel frustrated or disappointed without the relationship being damaged necessarily. They're just having an emotional reaction. They thought something was going to happen, and then it's not going to happen. And they feel that feeling of sadness or disappointment. But when you're used to managing emotional atmospheres, then the nervous system treats that discomfort like some kind of a danger. And the fastest way to remove that discomfort is to undo the boundary and to turn your no into a yes. And I don't know about you, but I've done that a million times and it never feels right. But this is me trying to manage their emotions, trying to remove that disappointment so that they can feel good again. And it comes at a cost of my own inner integrity. And so I may have restored emotional balance with them, but it actually hurts me in the long run. And in the way, it hurts the relationship in the long run as well, because now it's not as honest of a relationship. It's not as balanced of a relationship. It's now me performing and being what they need me to be, or what I think they need me to be, instead of being who I am and seeing how we manage together or not. Over time, this pattern creates a quiet imbalance. You become the steady one, the accommodating one, the one who makes things smoother, but the cost accumulates, and your time becomes overcommitted so easily. Your energy becomes drained, and resentment begins to appear in places where you, in the past, felt generosity. And perhaps the most painful part is you start feeling like you're disappearing inside of your relationships because your nervous system keeps prioritizing their emotional comfort over your own. That is the hidden cost of the emotional responsibility trap. Underneath this pattern is often a quiet belief. If someone feels bad because of me, I should fix it. Like, duh. How often do you believe that? I certainly have. But that's not necessarily a true statement. And it puts us in an impossible position because you can't control another person's emotions. It's just not possible for one person to control another person's emotions. You can be kind, you can be respectful, you can communicate clearly, you can do lots of things, but the actual emotional experience that someone has in response to, say, your boundary, that belongs completely to them. So learning to see that distinction is where real freedom begins. Empathy does not mean emotional ownership. You can notice someone's disappointment, you can care about it, you can even acknowledge it, but you are never responsible for it. And think about it. If you've ever noticed saying no to one person that took it well and saying no to another person who didn't take it well, who was disappointed, did you do anything different? No, it's just that one person managed to handle it just fine. The other person didn't. And so why is it suddenly my responsibility to take care of it when someone doesn't handle it well? But that's what we do. So getting clear on this requires inner work and is really important for us to stay balanced as highly sensitive people. When that separation becomes clear about what is theirs and what is mine, then something changes. You can actually say no, and you can allow the other person to have their reaction, and there's no problem. They can actually feel that disappointment. They can be angry. Whatever they need to go through, it's not about you. And you can do that, you can allow that even without collapsing your boundary, without taking your no back and changing it into a yes. So this doesn't make you less compassionate. It actually restores balance because your compassion finally starts to include yourself, not just the other person. So if you're exhausted from constantly monitoring how other people are feeling, and you don't want to keep carrying responsibility for emotions that were never actually yours, and what you really want is to be able to say no without feeling like you've damaged the relationship, then this is exactly the kind of inner work that you can explore with me in one-on-one sessions. Because this pattern doesn't change just by trying to have stronger boundaries. It shifts when you begin to see the beliefs that quietly tie your sense of safety to other people's emotional reactions. In our work together, we slow these moments down. We separate empathy from responsibility. And we begin rebuilding the ability to stay grounded in yourself even when someone else is disappointed. If you're ready to shift this pattern, go to the video description and click on the first link you find, or go to trueinnerfreedom.com/working-together. You don't have to stop caring about people. You just have to stop carrying what was never yours.